Jesse, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Ben. How are you, pal?
It's really great to speak to you again. It's been a year since we last spoke, and I know a lot. You guys have achieved a lot of stuff in that time. Would you just allow me to introduce you for a moment? I want to describe to our listeners what it is you do, and I'm going to try and put it in my own words, and then you can take it from there. So you guys help people, anybody that's got a mortgage, anybody that's facing financial problems, anybody that's in foreclosure, anybody that's got credit cards, anybody that's getting calls from debt collectors or anything like that. You help people resolve that type of stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say, but better than that is we don't really help them directly. We just basically help them to help themselves.
Right.
And that's really what the goal of the site is to help you kind of wake up to the fact that there is solutions out there that actually work, that you can do yourself, that you don't need to run into the closet, you don't need to run to attorneys and pay all kinds of money. You just address them head on, and there's easier solutions than people think out there. There really is,
Now,
and they're working.
now
It's working.
is
Go ahead.
that is actually possible to stop a foreclosure? And this is not just like a loophole in the law. This is not just a delay tactic. This is a real solution that can actually stop a foreclosure dead in its tracks. And you've done this, and your members have done this repeatedly, yeah?
Yeah, I have 6 houses in foreclosure as we speak. My personal one, the one I'm sitting in now, talking to you. And they're all over the 5 year mark, and it's very unlikely that they're going to win. Now, here's the beauty of it. In Florida, we have a 5 year statute of limitations on contract law, meaning that they can't collect within 5 years' time. As long as I can get rid of the case, they can't never come back and collect.
Right.
So rather than go through the quiet title and go through the nonsense, the administration or the administrative procedure and things that I know for sure just don't work.
Hmm.
I know for sure now because the Florida law supports it, saying it's 5 years. If you can't collect, you're done.
Right.
And once I get past that, of course, there's other stages that we go. But, there are loopholes in the law. There are mechanisms which are in place to stop a foreclosure. And the big issue we have now, which we've had since 08, 09, is, of course, the securitization issue and the person who actually has the right to foreclose.
Right.
That's the biggest one. That's going to be a constant.
Right. Hold on a second. So let's just make this really clear for our listeners. So let's imagine somebody's listening to this. They're a regular person. They've got a house, a mortgage. They're paying their mortgage each month. Uh, can they benefit from this information? Can they stop paying their mortgage and keep their house? Is that going to be possible?
Well, we never suggest that you do that, of course. We're not attorneys, and we don't proclaim to be giving you legal advice or financial advice. But at the end of the day, that's what I did.
Right. Right. Okay.
We got everybody worldwide. The focus has always been on the U.S., but the whole world got screwed
Right.
by the banking system and the feds. And my house in particular went from $1 million, and I know this is going to sound absurd, but it went literally from $980,000 appraisal down into the low 200s
Wow.
within 7 months. And I looked at my wife and I said, honey, we gave more down payment, actual cash money down,
Yeah.
and we spent 150 grand on refurbishing the property. So we've spent more money out of our pocket than the house is worth now. We could have bought this house cash had we just waited to this point. But of course, nobody had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's a financial decision for us. And, I love our property. We have 15 acres. My wife has her horses. And, but at the end of the day, business is business.
Hmm.
And am I going to pay on a liability that's $700,000 upside down, and there's no upside coming for at least another 10 or 15 years, no matter what you think or you hear? The real economists they know better. Things got to completely implode before they're ever going to get any better. And we're nowhere near that. So I know for a fact that I'm not going to keep paying on a liability. There's no way for that long. When one of the listeners is listening and has been wondering or is on the edge of, I don't know if I want to keep paying on this thing, but I don't want to just walk away. Or a lot of people right now are trying to buy a second home, right? And then they walk away from the first one. Well, they're starting to prosecute people like that here in the United States, which is illegal to begin with, but that's what they're doing or attempting to do. Um, again, it's just a business decision, and you have to look at it that way. You can't have the sentimental value and the personal emotions involved in something like this. It's what's best for you and your family going forward, no matter what. It's just a house,
Right.
and you have to look forward to your kids and your grandkids and what's better for them and for you and your retirement and yada yada yada. I've met people who've spent their entire 401k, their entire savings. They're borrowing money to keep paying on a house that's $200,000-300,000 upside down.
Right.
You can't. That's ridiculous. You know how hard it is to replace that kind of money in today's environment,
Yeah.
and going forward to sit here and squander it all. I can go rent a mansion for $1,000 a month now. You know, it's
Right.
ridiculous.
So,
So it'll benefit them.
so,
You
so,
know, it,
so these banks have actually been committing fraud. That's the basis that you challenge them on in court, is it?
well, I don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. All you got to do is pick up a newspaper or go online or watch the news. It's the banksters have been defrauding the consumers for 10 years, going actually longer than that since the dot-com bust. But yeah, you challenge them on many things. The problem, of course, is knowing the simple arguments that a judge or jury or both are going to listen to and understand. Because if you don't grasp it and you don't command it, then how the heck are you going to get that point or that argument across to a judge who's not a foreclosure specialist? None of these guys know anything about foreclosure law or fraud or MERS or any of the other securitization issues that they're. It's up to us, and it's up to the good defense attorneys which are far and few in between, by the way, to educate the judge and educate the jury if you get to that point. So the common person, again, can read and understand that there is a letter that is supposed to be sent to you every time they change a servicer or ownership of your mortgage and your note. That's right in most mortgages, Section 22, Section 20, or Section 15. That's pretty simple to understand. You're supposed to get a letter saying, "Hey Ben, I'm your new guy, Jesse, and I own your note or I'm servicing your mortgage." And if that didn't occur, then they can't foreclose. That's a simple argument. You don't
Wow.
demand that. There's a simple argument that you have to send me a default letter, meaning, "Hey Ben, listen, you made your last payment 3 months ago, and you're behind this much, and you have to this day, and this is what you have to do to fix it." And that's a conditions precedent of any court action prior to a foreclosure. It doesn't matter. That's an easy one you can command again and say, "Listen, I never got this letter," or the body of the letter was insufficient. It didn't have the proper language contained, and here's the case history to back you up. But that's an argument again that you can command, that you can do with confidence. You don't have to be an attorney. You
Yeah.
don't have to be hide in the corner. You can say, "Hey, I didn't get the darn letter. Section 20 says this, this, and this, and they didn't comply. Therefore, this action is premature, and you got to dismiss this court action or give me an injunction against these people." And in 99% of the time, you're going to get it. Number one, because you present something that's in contract law, it's right within your mortgage and your note. Number two, you command that argument. You know it, you have the confidence in it, and you can proceed forward. And number three, if for some reason that judge rules against you, you have an easy appeal that you can write up a simple brief that, again, the judges in the appellate court, which are swamped with pro se nonsense, which I call nonsense because they want to write a book instead of keeping something that's a page or two that the judge says, "You know what? They have an affidavit. They didn't get their conditions precedent letter or their notice of default. Okay, reverse and remand. It goes back and you start all over."
Right.
See, that's what those judges want to see. They don't want to see this lengthy, scholarly looking 55-page, boring, fall asleep crap.
Yeah.
They want to go, "Hey, all right, man, this Lowry guy, good pro se guy, man.
Right.
Done." And that's what they want. They want that. And that's what the good defense attorneys are finally starting to realize, that you can argue all these complicated issues because that's why you spent 300 grand in law school. But at the end of the day, judges don't care about that. They don't even know what you're arguing. They don't know the law. Just because they're a judge doesn't mean they know it all,
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's what our goal is empowerment of the individual, so that individual can go out and do what he needs to do or she needs to do to take care of their homestead and their family. That's the important part.
So that little angle that you just described, that's just one of the many possible tactics that people can use to defend themselves against the bank. So if people are listening to this, they could go and look at their mortgage agreement or whatever it is, the paperwork, the contract, whatever you call it, and they could see that clause in there that says if the bank sells the note on, then they're supposed to notify the borrower. And people could go and look at their note right now, yeah?
Yeah, right this second.
Yeah,
It's both. It's a conditions proceeding on both the note and the mortgage. So they both require notice of default and opportunity to cure. They
right.
both require notice of sale or transfer. These are things that are right there that no judge can argue with. Here's the mortgage. There's their failure. Here's my affidavit supporting what I'm saying. Now they have to overcome and rebut your affidavit. Not
Right.
an easy job because generally these are form letters that are sent out. They're not addressed specifically to Ben, and or they have a lack of language. So the body of the letter doesn't contain the proper language or the required language as per the mortgage. The mortgage spells out the five um, specific topics that need to be covered within a notice of default. So does the note, and it requires it's right there. So if you don't, it's five little sentences you can understand.
Right.
Again, Ben, it's all for simplicity. Keep it simple. Stupid is the nature of our system, and that's why our members have been so successful because it's not something that I'm coming out there trying to play Mr. Attorney or Mr. Scholar here and confuse you or make you study for 2,000 hours to confuse yourself out of the solution.
Right. Yeah. Now, in your membership area, I was looking at your website. If people go to benlarry.com/debt, they can see it. And your members actually they upload pictures of checks that they've received in compensation from banks. For is that right?
Yeah, yes, yes, and you have full access to the site. So, and you've had, if you just go to our success stories, I can, I can go down there 6,000, 4,000, 2,200, 2,500, 18. I'm just reading right now. I'm just going through the top. Um, we have members that have you know gotten six-figure settlements.
Six figures.
Six figures. Because remember, we don't just focus on foreclosure. We focus, or we broadly cover the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Telephone Communication Protection Act. We cover certain sections that we know are easy for everybody to understand, and that can pay you back. And that works as well in foreclosure. So the whole point of the site, again, is to teach everybody how to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Okay, once you put that puzzle together, then you have an offensive strategy, which is better than the defense. If you're throwing balls at me and I'm constantly dodging them, eventually I'm going to get hit with a ball. It's just impossible not to.
Right.
Right? You agree?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
If I start throwing balls back at you, the chances are that you're going to slow down on throwing balls or quit altogether.
Right, right. But so, I mean, so when your members, they follow your instructions, they use your templates, they take these actions against the banks and the debt collectors, the credit card companies, and they receive checks in compensation. Is this a rare thing? Is this something that happens once in a blue moon, or are your members consistently, achieving this, are they being sent checks consistently?
I would say some of our members last year, throughout the course of the year, made over $40,000. Uh, and I'm talking one case at a time, for phone calls, credit pools that are impermissible, servicers, myself. I have just myself. I started my new year. My wife's check's up there. She just got a check, $3,750 last week. She was laughing because she wanted new mattresses for Christmas, and the debt collectors bought her a set of Tempur-Pedics, $3,000, and so she was laughing her head off, thinking, "Wow, I'm sleeping on a free bed."
So,
Guys, so,
so these debt collectors and credit card companies and banks, they're violating the Fair Debt Collection
right,
Practices Act, and
yeah, it's
there's laws in place that are there to protect consumers, and the law says that if they violate these rules, then they've got to pay you. There's actually a statutory amount of compensation that they got to pay, right?
yeah, $1,000 minimum on the FDCPA. The Fair Credit Reporting Act is $1,000, up to $1,000 per month per violation.
Right.
So, for instance, I dispute something and they don't correct it, and I let it run for 36 months. I sue them for $36,000
Wow.
just for reporting misinformation. That's not including, what I call the actual damages, meaning if you're misreporting information and I went to apply at Ben Lowry's bank for a credit card and Ben denied me because of that derogatory information, it turns out that that derogatory information really is derogatory and it shouldn't have been there and it cost me the opportunity with Ben. Well, now I can sue you for the actual damage. So not only is it the $1,000 per month, but now I have actual loss of enjoyment and stress or whatever. I mean,
Right.
I don't ever go there and we never encourage anybody to do that. We just say, listen, stick to what you know first, and then once you get your feet wet, then you can move on.
Right. But most
Uh,
people don't know this. So most people, there's so many people are being harassed by banks and stuff, and they don't know that these laws are in place, and they don't know that they could be receiving compensation and getting checks in the mail. And so most people never do it. But this is basically what you teach to your members.
Ben, I have right now in active cases more than 99% of the listeners are going to make working all next year, and I'll be settled by February, the end of February with all
Hang on,
of them.
say that again. I didn't quite understand.
Okay, I have more in cases right now
Yeah.
for simple violations filed. Some are in the process of settlement. Several I have default judgments. Some are going to be in the high six figures, which are going to settle immediately.
Wow.
They're not even going to go nowhere. They don't want the additional because they know there's no way out. So what I'm telling you is I have more money using my system in cases right now than 99% of the listeners will make in earned income for the next 12 months. And I'll be
Wow.
done by February if I don't want to lift a finger the rest of the year.
Wow. So
That's
this is
fact.
mega bucks. This is not, play
And again,
money.
that's right, Ben. And again, you see, because your listeners have to believe you, the checks in our member section. So when I say that, I can back it up 110%. And number two, 99% of the time when a member gets a check, I send out a mass email because that's a big attaboy for the member. Did a good job. That's the whole point. You encourage each other as a community to keep doing and to go forward. And you receive those emails along with thousands of other people. So we have nothing to hide and we can prove everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's not too many other people that you know of or I know of that can actually do that.
Yeah, it's totally incredible. I really want to encourage people to go to your website and take a look. And you've got that video on the homepage that, and it shows the type of stuff. It's really amazing. Jesse, I'm interested. You must have been a party to so many lawsuits. I expect you've lost count, haven't you?
No, actually, I'm not. I pick and choose what I do.
Right.
And I'll give you an example of a little bit of fun that I'm having right now. As a matter of fact, hold on. Let me grab this file, Ben. Let me just grab this file.
Sure.
It's in my backpack here because I got to head to the office here when we're done with this interview. But this isn't a train. This is a case. And let me grab the judgment here. I'm going to show you what a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of PI work, which is what is shared there with all our members, will get you. This is a final summary judgment, Wells Fargo Bank against my wife for $129,000. And I'll be doing a complete video series for the members on this particular case I'm doing. Because these are my case studies. This is what I try to teach people is there's never an end. When people think, oh, I got a judgment, or no. Sorry. Again, you say loopholes, I say rules, and I say law that we share. And of course, you are a PA, right? Or a PI, I'm sorry, a private investigator at all times. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So here I'm holding in my hand a final summary judgment in favor of Wells Fargo Bank for 129,000 even, and it says shall bear interest at the rate of 4.75 per year, all for which let the execution issue. Okay, fantastic. This was done 29th of March 2012 against my spouse, my wonderful wife of 26 years, for a credit line on a home, a rental property that went downhill and lost, 50, 60% of its value. So she was upset and distraught with it. And I said, honey, you shouldn't be. We'll get rid of this. Not only are we going to get rid of this, this is going to put six figures. We're going to win enough money in this case without ever getting into court. That's going to buy her anyhow she wants, cash.
Right.
Okay. Why is this? Because I made it very, very clear to the judge and in open court filed what I'm holding in my hand right now that says notice of non-appearance. Defendant gives notice as follows that the Florida Rules of Judicial Administration 2505E provides three ways in which an attorney may appear in a proceeding. The attorney who is here for the plaintiff has done none of these three things. Counsel of record for the plaintiff is Jody Cohen, a fact reflected in the clerk website, accessible public docket. Accordingly, the plaintiff has failed to show up for the pretrial conference. And the judge says, hey, Cohen, which just happens to be Mark B. Cohen, you need to get on the record because I made a protest to the court. I said, hey, this guy can't even be here. Filed it. It's stamped right here, filed in open court, February 15th, 2012, done deal, right?
Yeah.
I let it go from that point forward. We had started, this was, you hear what I said, this was a pre-trial conference. So we were getting ready to go to trial.
Right.
Right? Well, guess what? This Mr. Cohen wanted to be a smart aleck and wrote the judge a letter and says, please recall that on Friday, March 16th, at approximately, Your Honor conducted a hearing for the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment. At that time, the undersigned attended the hearing. So basically, he was thanking the judge for canceling the trial, which we're all entitled to, canceled the trial. Like I said, don't worry about a bad judge because they're still resolved if you just learn to do what we do. So, get the letter. I says, okay. Gave him the deal. Well, because this attorney was not there, and I know the rules of judicial administration, which is one thing we preach to everyone. Learn your rules. If you're in federal court or a district court, then learn the district court rules of procedure and also learn the local rules for that court. And if you're in circuit court, learn those. And if you're in small claims, which is the smallest, the peon, it's above every attorney to be, or below every attorney to go to a small claims court, you know. I'll give you a story about that one last Friday, which we had a ball with. But so, you know, I know for a fact that this attorney shouldn't have been there. So what do I do? Of course, going through, because again, we use the FDCPA. I know he violated that because he comes on basically as a trespasser on my case, correct? And he's using unconscionable means in order to collect the debt because he knows he's an attorney and so is that judge. So that's unfair and unconscionable means in which to collect the debt. Do you agree with that?
I don't quite understand what you mean by that, actually. Why is it unfair?
Okay. When you have an attorney that's representing a plaintiff, you can't just show up as an attorney. You have to go through a certain protocol so the court can recognize you.
Okay. All
right. So if you're not recognized by the court and you just show up and say you protest and say, hey, this guy shouldn't be here, basically they've gone unrepresented today, right? Because nobody's there, even though he's there. As the fiction goes, right? The court, you're not there because you didn't give a notice of appearance.
Oh, I see. So this is just like he's just sort of trespassing on the case, kind of thing.
Exactly. He just showed up. Right. Okay, no problem. That's what I told my wife. Don't worry about it. We made the notice of non-appearance. Told the judge. The judge ordered him specifically to get on the record. He never did.
Right.
I didn't protest again. See, the regular pro se would have been back in there the next hearing, yelling and screaming, hey, judge, you told him to get on the record. Look, he failed. And why would I want to put myself out of that money? Be quiet.
Right.
Let him get the judgment. Let it go forward.
Right.
I've already made my protest. If the judge ignores me because she's a rubber stamp for the bank, good for me. I just made myself a bunch of money. And that judgment is no good.
Right.
Now you understand what I mean by unfair and unconscionable? He shows up. He's an attorney. She's an attorney. Oh, Your Honor, I'll get on the record. See, he's using unfair and unconscionable means.
Right.
Right? He's also violated the 1692D section, which says any conduct, the natural consequence of which is to harass, oppress, or abuse any person. Would you agree?
Right. So
All
this
that.
this guy isn't really a party to the case. He hadn't followed the
Exactly.
rules.
He's a stranger to the case, man.
Right. And
Yeah.
you're letting them hang themselves. Like that
Oh, absolutely.
you've let
And
the
I
judge
used the judge. I used the judge to help me in the crime.
right, right. So you let the judge proceed, and you've already put your protest in. You know the judge has ignored it. The judge
That's right.
issued the judgment in the plaintiff's favor. They're just hanging themselves. This is just more
Exactly.
right.
So what happens is this: I go because again, remember what I said? We use all these different acts. So I know the FDCPA. He's already violated that. He cannot get out of at least that $1,000. Impossible. But going through my wife's credit reports, looking for inquiries, lo and behold, who do I find made an inquiry?
Right,
Jeez, Mr. Cohen himself was in there.
right. And by doing that, that's another violation of that particular
Oh, my
law.
Lord. Do you want me to read it right from Cornell University Law School's website?
Sure.
The preliminary. Any person who knowingly and willfully obtains information on a consumer from a consumer reporting agency under false pretenses shall be fined under Title 18, imprisoned for not more than 2 years, or both.
Right,
Do you
right,
understand what that means?
right. Yeah. I mean, he's got to pay you some money, in other words, for violating that law.
Or go to
Prison
jail,
or
or
prison.
both.
Right,
It's called criminal.
right.
Why is this criminal? Because, see, there's plenty of case history that says attorneys cannot go in during litigation. It serves no purpose, and it can give them they're looking for some kind of advantage, basically, by doing that, right?
Right.
So there's a case out there called Bortz versus Bortz, Bortz, if anyone listeners want to look it up. And it basically says, listen, an attorney who did that can go to jail, and you shouldn't be doing that. But here's what makes it really, really bad. And then just remember what I said, what makes it really, really bad, and then I'm going to give you what makes it horrendous. Not for us, but for him. So by happenstance, I looked in my wife's report, and on January 26th of 2012, Cohen, Copland, and Conway pulled her credit. And I thought, Cohen, where do I know that name? Cohen. Then it dawned on me, wow, that was that attorney that was got the judgment that I'm waiting to sue, right?
Right.
And I thought, my God, this is unbelievable. We got to get moving on this thing, right? So I get on there and I look up the phone number that's listed on the credit report because the credit report reads as such. I'll read it to you. Cohen, Conway, Copeland, 10 Central Parkway, Pavia, PA, which is not Pennsylvania, but practicing attorneys, and then Stewart, Florida, and then the number. So I looked up the phone number, and the phone number pops up to what? Greenspan Martyr. It doesn't pop up to that Cohen, Conway, and Copeland.
Hmm.
So it's a whole separate attorney's firm. Well, when I looked it up in the Florida records under the corporations, it says here that it was dissolved back in 2007. So he's using a false corporation to look into people's credit while he's in litigation.
Wow.
Right? So now the plot thickens. Remember I said it got worse for him, but then it got really bad. Because here in 2005, 2005, the Florida Bar Complaint versus Mark B. Cohen. He was arrested in August 2002, pled nolo contendere to a felony marijuana possession and 5 misdemeanor counts, driving under the influence, possession of drug paraphernalia, fleeing and eluding officers, resisting arrest without violence, and reckless driving. So he's okay. So now he just committed a felony by looking into my wife's credit. Then I started finding this Florida, and he's obviously had 5 other felony charges, and was on probation for 3 years, by the way. And lo and behold, what do I find? Tuesday, January 24th of 2012, the Florida Bar versus Mark B. Cohen again.
Right.
He pled conditional guilty plea and consent judgment for discipline are approved and respondent, Judgment entered against him, not final until the final hearing. But the reason he threatened a defendant Yeah. So the guy has a felonious pattern. You
Right.
see, so being a little PI and happen to looking into the credit and knowing what to recognize there just turned a $129,000 judgment into at least a $300,000. I'm on probation. I don't want to lose my license. I'm going to jail, get out of jail ticket. So
Wow.
these are the kind of things that you need to know because they're simple. I'll give you another one that's just as simple. Friday, we go to small claims, go to the hearing. The lady from Bank of America shows up, the attorney, and says to the mediator, his name is Ty, a real nice young man, and my wife and I don't have any authority to settle. I said, really? She said, no, I have no authority to settle here. We're going to take it to trial. I said, Ty, you got that right. Even though nothing in mediation can be used in a courtroom, that doesn't mean I can't move the court for sanctions against her because Rule 71B of the small claims says that if the attorney shows up with no intention or no authority to settle, they have to pay me for my time.
Right.
So you see what I mean? I didn't care that he didn't want to settle or she didn't want to settle. What I care about is now you're going to pay me for my tolls and my gas and my time showing up here
Hmm.
because you just told everybody you didn't have authority to settle. So why didn't you just call the court and say, listen, I can't go to the mediation or I don't want to go because I just don't have nowhere to settle, you know? So again, these are the little things that we try to share with all the members and say, listen, if you use these strategies and you understand these procedures, you can go in with confidence and win. And it's little things like that. Another one we use a lot is by asking the state, because most people don't know that judges and magistrates have to file publicly a financial statement. So if Judge Ben Lowry here has shares in Bank of America, and I have an issue with Bank of America, Ben has to tell me. But 9 out of 10 times, Judge Ben will shut his mouth. He won't say nothing. But if I know that you have them, and then I show up to the court and I say, "Excuse me, Judge, don't you have 2,000 shares of common stock here at Bank of America?" Because your financial statement that you filed with the Secretary of the State shows you do. That means you're barred from listening to this case today, aren't you? You see, case over, you go
So
home.
most of the time, these things just proceed because people don't know these type of people don't know these type of rules and these defenses that they could be using, and so the judge might have a bias, and but the case just proceeds anyway, right?
Might.
Right,
Yeah, they don't like pro ses and they don't like smart pro ses.
right,
That's even worse for them. Somebody that could actually out argue their own compadres, their bar members. So it's just listen. It's simple stuff. The best we can do again is share with people. You know the old saying, "Teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever." And that's kind of what we're doing. I'm not giving anybody any fish, but we sure will teach you how to fish. And we do, our open calls. We have a call on Monday nights. We have a call on Tuesday nights. We have a Wednesday webinars. We have our open forums. We have a lot of information for them. And for 2013, I've already done about 8 or 9 videos and a whole bunch of new content. But I've waited because our number one complaint from people, believe it or not, is this is too much information. And the problem with that is it's typical human behavior. When it's new, you want to learn it all and absorb it all, and you can't. And I tell all the members, and the new listeners, you can eat a whole elephant. There's no doubt about it. But you got to eat them one bite at a time. You try to take, 20 bites, you're going to choke. And that's what happens. People try to choke it down, and you can't. And then they get flustered, and then the stupidity comes out in them, which is what you don't want. The frustration shows your stupidity. Don't do that.
right,
Because the judge will see it, I see it, the attorneys will see it, and they'll take advantage of it. You need to relax. You need to address your problem, whatever that problem is. Trust me, we have a solution, but you have to address that problem at that time and then move on to the next. But don't try to address them all at once because you'll go nuts. And that's the best advice I can give somebody. If you're getting harassed by debt collectors and your phone's ringing off the hook, then that's what you need to stop because you don't want them calling you constantly, right?
yeah,
So, but that you don't worry about getting rid of the court case. You can't do all that. You got to stop one thing at a time. If they sued you and you're in court, then you address that first. Let the calls continue. They're just making you money
right.
anyway. So
It's like an intellectual martial art. You're kind of doing one move at a time and blocking this and kicking that, and it's what. right?
I've never heard it put that way, Ben, but that's an awesome analogy. It's an intellectual martial art. As a matter of fact, I'll have to use it on my call tonight. With you, that is absolutely a neat one. It is because it's chess, and I don't know how many people like chess, but I'm not a chess player. My son's a very skilled chess player because he can think 20 moves ahead.
Hmm.
Uh, I can't do that. I don't have that gift. I have to I have to think at one move at a time. Meaning, okay, if I do this, it's going to cause that to happen. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah,
And that's as far as I get. But what I do have of a gift is I can look at the entire picture, which is what a lot of people can't do.
hmm.
Meaning I can stand outside and go, wow. See, I don't take it personal because I know it's just a game. It's a fantasy to me. So this whole court thing and the suits and all that, I feel like I'm in Disney World. I'm dealing with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Goofy and all the characters there. And that's who the judges and the bailiffs and everybody are to me, is nothing but characters. They're
Yeah,
state actors. That's their definition. They're state actors. So the judge wearing his black robe, trying to pretend like he's a priest, and Mickey Mouse wearing his black suit, to me is the same. They're both just actors. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't take one any more serious than I do the other.
It's funny because all you're doing is making these people stick to the law. You're just making them play by the rules. That's all you're doing.
Of course, absolutely, of course. There's nothing else to it. There's no secret. There's no karate. There's it's just you wrote this, right? You wrote this. Yes, you lawmakers. Yes, okay then, stick to it. That's all.
Yeah, and the remedies are right there in the law. This is not some kind of sovereign citizen kind of crazy,
No, no, no,
this
no,
is
no.
not like I'm not a citizen, I'm a natural flesh and blood human being, you've got no right to do. This is none of that. This is pulling out their own rules, their own laws and making them conform to it.
Listen, yeah, man, I'm a firm believer that we are natural born citizens and we have the right, and you don't have the right, but we all have a social contract.
Hmm.
So when you have a social contract that says, I'm not going to show up at Ben's house and break your knee because you owe me $10, that's a social contract. I'm going to ask Ben for the $10. And then if Ben doesn't give me the $10, then I'll take the appropriate action, right?
Hmm.
But the social contract says that I have to take the appropriate action. The appropriate action is not breaking your knee.
Hmm.
It's just right. So the same thing with the debt collector. If in fact I owe you $10, Mr. Lowry, debt collection service, then you have the right to call me, right?
Yeah.
So you think, and you have the right to sue me. So you think, but now I have to turn around and tell you, well, show me some kind of agreement that I have with Ben Lowry here to pay you. When did I ever make a payment to Ben Lowry? When did I ever give Ben Lowry my phone number for him to call and harass me at work or my cell phone? So, of course, if you don't know, you think that, well, Ben has the right to do this.
Hmm.
But if you know, then you go, wait a minute, Ben, I'm not going to tolerate this nonsense. And see, it takes it um, out of itself, meaning it takes it out of the debt issue, and now it becomes a violation of how you collected the debt.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what people are always, always forgetting. Literally, always forgetting. That this has nothing to do with the debt. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. It's the procedure and the protocol, right?
Exactly. And nothing more.
Yeah.
I mean, literally nothing more. If you worry about anything else, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesse, I want to encourage people because, like you said, the conference call that you guys do every week is free. So people can go to your website, they can join the newsletter, they can get on the conference call, and they can hear you guys talking to your members, and they can hear the success stories. Because at the start of every call, your members come on and talk about their success stories, right?
Yeah, yeah. We actually have a lot of them that just they get on the call just to share, and then that's it. They're gone.
Yeah.
They don't do. They have no other purpose for being there.
Right. Is,
So
is there any particular ones that like? Any that stood out recently? Any recent success stories you could just quickly tell us about?
well, yeah, we have so many. There's nothing that's special about any one of them. They're all special as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Whenever somebody's empowered enough to go out and drop the hammer on a debt collector or a banker and win, they're special. Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't want to sound, like I'm trying to avoid them. I'm not. I don't think that anybody has anything special. I think that they're all special. That's just the way I look at it.
Right. Right. Sure. It's amazing. It's so cool. It's so cool.
I'm looking for this here, and I want to read this to you. See, so I want to drive the point home to your listeners that people don't quite understand um, the real uh, thought behind the separation of debt and debt collection, and um, where the differences are. Meaning that I don't care whether you think the debt is real or not real. It has nothing to do with it. What matters is how you collect that debt.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It does make sense. Yeah. Just elaborate a little bit for us, just so we're clear.
Uh, Meaning that the collection of the debt has to be done properly.
Right.
And the actual collection of the debt, if you violate it, right, the process of collection has no bearing on whether the debt is legitimate or not. It has
Right.
no bearing on the debt whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, I still, again, if Ben Lowry owes me $10 and I show up and I break your legs and you call the police and they come and arrest me, does that take away from the fact that Ben still owes me $10?
No. Yeah. It was nothing to do with the debt. It was the fact that you did the wrong thing by breaking my legs, kind of thing.
Right. So if I come out of jail, I still have the right to go to your house and say, give me my $10.
Right.
You know what I mean? And by the way, how are your legs feeling? I'm sorry for doing
You know
that.
what? I did a really simple thing, and this is just going to sound so simple compared to the type of stuff you do, but there was like a small, like a bank, like an overdraft thing that was chasing me, and I just asked them to show me the contract. I just said, I don't remember anything about that. You know, you could be some scam artist. I don't know nothing about it. Can you show me the paperwork where I signed it? I can't remember, you know. And they left me alone, and I haven't heard from them since. And I know that's really simple, but in essence, that's that's the that's the type of angle. That's the same type of approach, isn't it?
Correct. That's the same approach. So, people don't know that their phone calls. If somebody calls your cell phone, and I don't care, as a matter of fact, Best Buy, which is a huge, huge electronic retailer here in the United States, just lost a major case because they were texting their members. Now, these are actual customers, and they were texting them rewards points. And I said, well, wait a minute. They give us their phone number, but just because I gave you my phone number doesn't mean I gave you the right now to text me.
Mm,
Now you're costing me money because you're burning up my text, right? Rewards points. So they lost the case. It was a huge class action settlement
right.
against them. We got one of our members got a six-figure settlement from telephone calls because, again, it's pretty hard to say I didn't violate the law when I show up with my phone records and recordings of 100 plus calls worth $1,500 a call. How are you going to argue that you didn't call me?
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible, isn't it?
Go with it. A smart man will cut his losses, right? You're going to say, okay, what do you want to settle for this dang thing? Let's get it out of our hair and go on with it.
That's incredible. So at $1,000 a call, this guy's
No,
got
it's 500 for the first one and 1,500 for every call thereafter.
wow. So he's pretty. So he received 100 calls from this company.
Received 136 calls or something like that.
He's got the phone records to prove it. The law says they're not allowed to do that, and if they do, they got to pay $1,500 a call. There's nothing to judge, is there? I mean, it's
Not much. Not if you do it correctly, there's not.
right.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, right?
Yeah, it's so cool. So I guess there's people that are doing this and making a full-time living doing this, right?
Listen, as bad as that sounds, yes.
Yeah.
I always tell people this. What's the best business in the world? Investing in yourself. And if you were to get a person who's never been late on a payment, not one time, who's up to date on all their bills, and that person were to sit down and study the system and start pulling their credit and start seeing all these impermissible pulls and what I call looky-loos in there, and start press, you can make yourself a bunch of money.
Yeah,
That could
sure.
be less if you have an 800 credit score and you're not behind on anything. That's how good the system is because there's laws that are being violated on a daily basis that people don't know. How many times do people call your cell phone trying to sell you something, telemarketing, or a bank or a credit card service. That's a $1,500 call, man.
Yeah, sure.
But
And
you ignore it, right?
for,
You just, I don't want nothing, and you go on about your day. Well, you just lost $1,500.
right. And it's kind of fun as well, because like to join your membership area, it's only $99, right? And then it's $50 a month after that.
Yeah, it's $49 a month is
And
what it is.
and
After that,
and yeah,
you
and
know,
going after these banks is fun. I mean, this is a fun game. If people, if people are listening to this and they feel like they could do it, this is a really, it's almost like a, they could, I don't want to say they can do it as a business to generate an income, but
I
in,
will.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, all it was this year, Ben. Remember last year I told you? I think I told you in that interview. I can't remember that the debt collectors are going to buy me a truck, and
Right.
they did. I bought a 2005 Dodge Ram pickup truck. Beautiful. Well, I sold that truck, and now the debt collectors are buying me another Dodge Ram pickup truck. Uh, couldn't care less. They bought it for me, paid for it, done deal. It's their pocketbook, not mine. They want to just keep violating. These guys are so ignorant or brazen, which I don't understand it. And these attorneys, of course, are so silly that we show up to small claims court. I'm suing Aurora Bank. Now remember, Aurora Bank. What I said, bank, not loan home or home loan servicing, but bank. It's two separate entities.
Right.
And she sits there and she says, "We're going to plead." This is during mediation. She says, "We're going to plead the bona fide error." So it's a bona fide error that we sent you this letter. Really? So I reached into my file. I said, "Well, how are you going to plead for the next four?"
Right.
She just didn't know what to say. I
Yeah.
said, "Number one, number two, ma'am, I've been in foreclosure with Aurora Home Loan Servicing LLC for over 5 years. I don't know who Aurora Bank FSB is."
Right.
"Oh, well, you're not going to play that game." I said, "Well, of course I'm going to play that game. Aurora Home Finance LLC is exactly that, a separate
Yeah, it's
corporation."
a different party. They're so arrogant. They think they can do all this stuff. They think they can bully everybody, and they think they can get away with it, and they think they don't have to play by the rules.
You know why?
Right.
Because they get away with it 98% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people let them do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. People let them do it. So if they let them do it and you let them get away with it long enough, eventually they believe their own arrogance and their nonsense. So when they meet somebody like myself in court, even the judges don't know how to act because they're like, "Wow, this guy's telling me things I've never heard," or he's challenging, "How did he know that?" Or, it's simple. I've been asked, I don't know, a couple dozen times by judges, "Are you an attorney?" "Why do you ask?"
Yeah.
I, I always tell them, "You wish," or something smart like that. I
Right.
never show. I just or the other side will say, "Well, you just got that template off the internet." And I say, "Well, so did you."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's a fact because people don't know that the templates are usually done by the states on what's acceptable for certain case material. So then they have the step templates that the attorneys go for, like our foreclosures form 1941 or something here in Florida. That's just a standard foreclosure template. You fill in the blanks.
Right.
You follow? So when you say that back to them, they're like, they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse, if you were to estimate roughly the value of the settlements that your members have received from following what you teach, is it in the, I mean, is it
Yeah.
in the
Go
millions?
ahead. That's what it is. There's no doubt in my mind.
It,
We launched this site January 19th of 2011. So this year, January 19th, will be our second anniversary,
right.
right? Going into our third year.
Yeah.
And with our first year, we estimated our members total had been well over $1 million.
Right.
And then last year, we have no clue. It's just gone so crazy. And why is that? Because we look at it this way. If you're in your home and you're in your home for 12 months because you've used our system and you're not paying $3,000 a month in a mortgage,
Mm.
you've actually just earned $3,600 or $36,000,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, if every member is doing that, which they are, plus all the cash settlements they're getting, plus we had a member settle somewhere up in northern Washington for 530 grand, just one deal. You know,
Jesus.
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, again, we don't brag about it. We don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth. Maybe we should do some advertising. I don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't do it. It's just word of mouth, and that's the best advertising. And of course, we encourage everybody to go look. Like you said, the video, it's on the inside. And I laugh my head off when I see people who post, "Oh, why aren't you doing this for free?" or "Why should I pay?" or and I have one simple thing: you value nothing you don't have a vested interest in. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, that means you're being disrespectful to other people's time and effort.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we have with a lot of the patriot movement is they expect everything for free, or they gripe, and they don't know that that's the reason that they're failing in life, period. Because go to McDonald's and say, I want a free hamburger.
Right.
Nobody's going to give you even a 59-cent hamburger for free.
No.
So it took time and effort to put it together.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, the way I see it, on one hand, there's the attorneys that are like sharks out there, and they'll charge people thousands and thousands of dollars, and
And they'll pay thousands and thousands. People will actually pay, Ben, and not get anything in return.
yeah, and they might not get the result, and they probably won't do anything that's anywhere near as good as the type of tactics that you're doing. But then on the other hand, the other danger is there's the whole patriot movement and all the nonsense and all the sovereign citizen stuff, and there's tons of information that ultimately isn't going to be effective and is going to get people in trouble, and they're going to waste their time and lose their house. So there's two big kind of dangers out there that people get sucked into. But what you guys are doing is like, really works. It's the proper way of doing things, isn't it?
Yeah, and everybody's welcome to go to TalkShoe
Yeah.
and listen to our calls. And you can hear one of the guys just last week says, I paid thousands of dollars to this guy so he could help me with this quiet title and got nothing. Says, I can't get a hold of the guy.
Hmm.
I said, that's your patriot movement. Thousands of dollars, but they never give you one stitch of proof that it works. I'm telling you, all you have to do is one little threat of a lawsuit, and you'll make yourself a minimum of $1,000, and the site costs you all of $750 for the year.
For the year, yeah.
So come on, guys. 2 and 2 is 4. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So when we designed the site, we designed it to make it easy, so it's very low money to get in, so at least you have access to it, and it's very low monthly, so you don't have to come up with $700 or $800 at one shot.
Yeah.
But apparently that's not good enough for some people because they still gripe. Oh, I don't want to pay. We shouldn't have to pay. Of course, that's why Walmart survives and China's getting rich off of everybody else because they want the best for nothing. And that until you lose that what I call poor mentality, it's a poor person's mentality, you're always going to remain poor. And that's part of what's wrong with our entire system. So,
Yeah, sure.
and I won't get into all that, but I always tell all our listeners that poor is a mind frame you're in and you're stuck there. Broke is just temporary. I've been broke many times, Ben. I've never been poor. Not once in my life, And that's the difference between my successes and everybody else's failures because I never lament or cry or whine about things. I just take care of my business and that's that. And that's what you have to do, So I don't ever live in the give me stages of life. I'm always trying to give to people and to help people understand and get through the tough times because our economy is just getting worse. It's not getting better. And don't let anybody fool you. It's not getting better on your side of the pond, and it's definitely not getting better on my side of the pond.
Yeah. I'll agree with that. Wow, Jesse, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. In my mind, it's a total no-brainer. I want to encourage people, go to the website, get on the newsletter, get on the TalkShoe conference call, become a member. It's a no-brainer, $99 to join. There's no doubt about it. It's definitely worth that. It's an understatement to say it's worth that. It's so much fun hearing these stories. So,
Well, plus we do a lot of special what I call added value events.
right.
Meaning, we get a lot of requests from people to go do some kind of live type of shows,
Right.
But if we did those, if I did a show or a seminar for a couple of days in Texas or in Vegas or California or Florida, I'd have to charge because, again, none of that's free. The hotel or the room are, they charge you for, and the service there and the travel. And so rather than do that, we do a lot of specialized webinar series. This year we have February 5th launches the Foreclosure Bash. And that's going to go into detail from the very, very beginning. I mean, literally pre-foreclosure to where you're not even in foreclosure, and all the things that have to happen and all the things you should be doing, all the way to after summary judgment and all the things you can do and you should be doing. So that's an added value that's up and above the website. And we don't charge anything for it. That's just there, and that starts February 5th, and it'll run all the way through. We wrap it up May 28th, and that'll be every other Tuesday from 8 o'clock to whenever we're done, Eastern time. And then right after that, we're taking a little bit of time off, and then we're going to take in June 18th and do the TCPA takedown. Starts, June 4th, and that'll run all the way up into August. And that's going to talk about the cell phones and the texting and unsolicited and unwanted calls and calls to work and, all the things that you can do to make money and make enough money to get rid of the debt. That's the beautiful thing is, if Ben calls me 10 times and, that's $12,500 or $15,000, whatever the amount of the damages are, and I owe you $6,000, well, what's your best thing, Ben? I mean, really, what's the best negotiating tool? Get rid of the debt.
Right.
Because I know it's pretend anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? So, if I can come to Ben and say, Ben, listen, you owe me $15,000 according to the TCPA, here's my phone records, and I never gave you permission to call me, and you say I owe you $6,000, where do we meet in the middle?
It's just like, cut me a check for a couple of grand and we'll call it quits kind of thing.
Exactly. You see my point? So you don't have to sue them. You just have to use your head and be a good negotiator. Right. And you can use a lot of our techniques just for that purpose. See, so it's not always about suing them and going to court and all that. It's just negotiating. Sometimes you get ahead of the schedule. But if you don't know that they're violating a law that has potential cash value to you, then, you're still running around the dark frustrated and dodging the phone calls and not going to the mailbox. And, I love going to the mailbox. Now, I get a letter from a debt collector. I know it's worth money. Minimum of $1,000. Minimum, just by sending the dang thing. Not to include anything else you're doing. Then, my phone rings and it's an unknown number. I get excited. I'm like, wow, it's 1,500 more, So.
Amazing. So this foreclosure bash, so this is like a webinar teleconference type of thing, is it?
Yes, and it's only open to the members. You have to be a member to partake in it.
Okay.
That, like I said, that kicks off February 5th. And then in April 13th and 14th, we're going to do a 2-day, the Saturday and a Sunday. We're going to do like 6 to 8 hours each day. And of course, that's open to all the members.
Right.
And that's the same thing. It's all foreclosure related. It's really intense, and we're going to have a securitization auditor come on, the guy who does all our audits, securities trader come on, talk about, So we have a lot of specialty subjects there with specialty guests that know this information, better than they know themselves. So we give a lot for that $49.
Yeah.
So we're trying, obviously, to help the community to grow and to learn. And, and of course, it's never big enough. But the bigger the movement, the better. But we don't do any advertising. We just don't do it. And I'm a firm believer in that the best advertising is what we're doing right now. When you say it works and when your members say it works and your friends and family say it works, that's all anybody needs to hear,
Yeah, sure, because you could advertise and you could charge your members twice as much, but there's no need. You could charge your members half as much and then do interviews and, and things like this and word of mouth, and it's more efficient.
Exactly. Absolutely don't need to waste thousands upon thousands. Advertising is not cheap. It's just not cheap. So, and for the savings over the long run for the members, you're right. This is the better way to go.
Now, if people miss those events, is it going to be recorded? Will it still be on the website in the future?
They're all archived.
Right.
If you were to stop this phone call, this interview right this second and go listening, it'd take you 2 years to listen to everything. It's impossible.
Right. Okay, so people are not going to miss out. They can become a member at any time, and all your webinars and conferences are all on there. And yeah, yeah, it's incredible, Jesse. Um, well, I guess we've covered enough kind of things for today. Is there anything, any other important points that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
No, I just I appreciate you. You know, we do our yearly thing. It's a shame we don't do it more often.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, sure. I really
and
enjoy catching up with you. It's so great to hear the stories.
I love your new haircut, man. It's great, man.
Well, my hair fell out actually.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it fell out. Alopecia. I'm fine. I'm not ill or anything. It's not a serious disease, but it actually is total alopecia. My eyebrows went, my eyelashes. It's just a mystery.
That is a mystery. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre. So, but I'm fine. But I've been trying to figure
Uh,
out what it is. You know, whether it's nutritional or some deficiency or something. I don't know.
See what happens when you think too much?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of weird, but
And I appreciate you having me on. And again, I encourage everybody to get signed up, at least if you have any intentions at all of joining us. Uh, Join us prior to the foreclosure bash. So when you start the bash, you don't sit there and you're, Google-eyed and stone cold trying to catch up with a lot of the terminology that we're going to go into and discuss. It's always better if you get ahead of the schedule, get your feet wet in the site before we start any of these specialized webinars. I tell you, last year we did the Summer Slam. It was fantastic. We had members just making thousands of dollars off that Summer Slam. It was absolutely unbelievable.
right.
So,
Uh, one more thing I just want to say to people, even if people are listening to this and it doesn't really interest them, even if they know other people, share the video around, spread the video around. If you know people that have got a mortgage or debt problems, then forward the video because, somebody else might be, more interested in it.
well, or could benefit. It's not even interested. It's benefit from
Yeah,
it, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Don't forget, listen, we have, you and I were talking before, and I told you, our average member stays on the site around 18 months.
yeah.
That's average, which is unreal and unheard of in a
That's
membership
incredible. That's
site.
an
And
actual,
two,
yeah, that's the actual statistic from the ClickBank website, and
that's
that's
right.
amazing because
That's our,
it's not like people are just paying and joining and then getting bored and leaving the next month. What the average person staying 18 months, that really proves the quality of the service and the information you're providing.
yeah, and our refund rate is 2.6%. And everybody, which we didn't even talk about, we give a 60-day money back, 100% money back guaranteed, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Because again, ClickBanks does our processing and our payments, so we don't have a choice. If the member says, "Hey, I want a refund," it just comes out. We don't have a choice. We don't even get to discuss it or try to talk you out of it. We don't want to. If you're not happy, go on about your business. But what other system out there gives you 2 months to look at it, utilize it, steal all the information if that's what you feel you need to do, and then get your money back.
Yeah.
We don't have that problem. I mean, we have less than 1% of people that actually try to play or game the system. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Everybody's so happy with the system, with the way we've laid it out, that I'm really proud of it, man. I'm very proud of what we've done, and I'm happy that we could be of service to the community in a legitimate service and something that gives back to the community. Because Lord knows they could use it. We've all been beat down enough over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So, it's a
Awesome.
good thing.
Well, I look forward to our next conversation at some point in the future, and we'll get to hear more stories. And I hope it goes well with the foreclosure bash, anyway. So,
It is.
yeah,
It will, Ben. All
yeah.
right, buddy. You take care. If you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me, buddy.
Awesome, Jesse. It's been great speaking to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day, bud.
Bye.